Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions. This one being this week's theme thoughts, where I go over some of the things that we explored in the theme and kind of give my own recommendations for tracks that would fit the theme as well. We did Silent Moment, which is an exploration of songs that utilize silence somewhere in the track. It was more of an abstract theme, as I mentioned at the beginning of the week. I really didn't think there was going to be many moments when I would bring up what the silence was doing compositionally, and by the end of the week, I think that was mostly true. Jorge Drexler's Silencio was a standout, though. It utilized silence in a way that was interesting musically, part of the composition for sure, and thematically appropriate given what the lyrics were about. I found that to be a high point of the week. Not necessarily for sheer composition, though I did enjoy the track, but just for lining up with the themes. I thought it was really great, and I kind of wish we had heard more tracks that utilize silence like that, but I also appreciate that I can't think of any. So, maybe people just couldn't think of any. I don't know. And even sort of on that topic, I normally give suggestions. Oh, if I were on the other side of this equation, what would I suggest for the week's theme? And I don't know. There's a couple of songs I can think of that have a hard break in them. I mean, there's the mega mixes, the supercuts you can find on YouTube where the song stops when someone says stop, and then you get back into the music. Those are neat. I don't mind them. I think they're kind of cool. I've watched a couple of those supercuts. It's a neat little bit of word painting where the music follows the lyrics. But I was trying to find something that I knew where the silence was meaningful. It wasn't just a hard stop between two disparate sounds. Because some bands do use that hard stop just to go to a brand new section. And it gets the job done. It's not as blatant as a smash cut type of harsh transition, but it's not as smooth as a natural evolution across sounds either. It sort of fills in the middle ground. You get a little bit of a palate cleanser, but it's still a harsh transition. And that's sort of all I could find in my library of musics, or at least what I could think of off the top of my head. So I don't have anything specific to add to this week regarding suggestions for the theme, but one of the songs that did pop up in the Patreon theme or the theme poll was John Cage's 433. And I'm kind of glad it didn't win, it didn't get picked, because I don't know that it's really a great conversation to have to take up a slot from a different track. But I do want to go over a little bit of this for people who don't know what John Cage's 433 is. So, why didn't that work? There we go. We're going to watch a little bit of this. We're not going to watch the full performance of it. I think you're going to get the gist of it fairly early on. This is performed by the Berliner Philharmonic. Let's check out, see what's going on here. I think you get the gist. It is often described as 4 minutes and 33 seconds, 3 movements of silence. That's not entirely true though. Most of the performances do have an audience. They do have room noise, air conditioner hums. Even the musicians themselves, while not playing anything, can make noise. You move a stand, flip a piece of paper, cough a little bit. The song is the ambient noise that typically doesn't get heard because the music is being played. That's the entire piece. It's the ambient noise of the performance. And some people wanted my thoughts on this. And so, here we go, real quick. This is a very big discussion, much larger than this little 5-10 minute video is going to encompass. So, know that this is quite a bit condensed and maybe even a little wrong in some places, but I'm compressing it down to layman's terms, and so it's not a 5-hour video. There is a discussion about what is music. I've brought this up a couple of times. I think even, in fact, I brought it up at the beginning of this week, so some of you might be hearing this twice. Generally speaking, most people would agree that music is when you make sounds that sound good together. Otherwise, it's just noise. And that's where a lot of the contention comes from, is can noise be music? Where does the line sit between the two of them? I ascribe to the idea that music is any combination of sounds and silence, regardless of intent. That's why I focus on any combination. Some people take my definition and imply intent. You're not making music if you do it accidentally. There is a recording of a... I should have brushed up on this before I started this video. There's a recording, though, that I learned about in one of my music history courses back in university. And it is the recording of, if I remember correctly, a post office. And a composer went and recorded this. And the movement of all of the people and the machinery was all in sync in a way that created a groove and a meter and a tempo. It had minor fluctuations as they weren't intentionally doing this, but everything did sort of line up into a synchronicity, and it created percussion. You could very easily write music on top of it. Is that music? Objectively, we don't really have an answer for that. Again, some people will say it is, and some people won't. I believe it is. I don't think music needs to be intentional. If you pick up a trumpet and you just start making noise on it, you've made music. It might not be great music. It might not be really supported strongly through theory. Everything you might have played might have been out of tune, sounded weird for the instrument, and was kind of in a weird key, but you still played music. And so 433 is divisive in music circles because it's not a song. No one's playing anything, but it is music, right? Is it? If no one's playing anything, is it music? And again, I think it is. I will defend 433 as being music until the day I die. It is a combination of sounds and silence. There are sounds being made, there is silence that juxtapose and break up the noise, although more in this case, the sounds are breaking up the silence. It's just not made with traditional instruments, it's not made with intent. and it's not pre-composed. It's completely improvisational. But I think that's only half of the equation when someone talks about 433. The other half of it is if you believe it to be music, is it good music? And that's where I say no. And I'm really curious what people are going to say in the comments about this. Again, I will defend 433's placement in the history of music. Until the day I die, this is music, but I don't enjoy it. I don't like this song. It is as interesting to me as White on White, which is a famous 1800s painting. I don't remember who made it. They just took a blank canvas and painted like an off-kilter, off-white square on it, and that was the painting. It's no different to me than an unmolded block of clay, calling it, a statue. Um, it is sort of the base form of sound. If a blank canvas or an unmolded block of clay or paint on a palette is the first stage of creation, this is still that first stage of creation. Nothing has been written. And so I don't find 433 provocative. I don't find it evocative. I don't find it mentally engaging or stimulating. It is, at best, an interesting exercise. Can you make music without your performers playing anything? Well, yeah, you can. It's not good music. It's not interesting to listen to. There's nothing engaging about it, but it is a song. Good job. Hypothesis discovered and exercise complete. And so it kind of upsets me a little bit that 433 continues to get played. I think it's one of those things that you needed to be there at the inception. You needed to see the first 433 before it became this cultural phenomenon. Even my dad, who doesn't care a bit for uh, anything outside of rock and metal, knew about 433. I don't think there's many people who don't know about it. It kind of made a big deal. You go to see your local orchestra and they decide not to play for 4.5 minutes. It's it goes outside of the music sphere into the general pop culture. Um, and knowing what it is, I don't think you can ever experience that same thing of not knowing it, of going into a concert, hearing some phenomenal stuff, the conductor raising his hands, and then nothing. 30 seconds, 50. Oh God, it's been a minute. What's going on? 2 minutes in, still nothing's happened. There is a really interesting story here for the listeners, each of them having their own mental conversations, maybe even conversations with who they came with, maybe even just their neighbor. They came alone, but they need to experience this with someone else. It's not something they feel they can hold to themselves. And hey, do you know what's going on? Is there an emergency? Is someone hurt? Did they have to pause it? And then at the end, the conductor puts his hands down, bows, and the confusion. I don't know what exactly happened at the first performance of 433. I should probably look this up and see if I can find out. I think a lot of what I would find most interesting about it would be lost if it was described beforehand. If before playing, the conductor turns towards the audience and says, "We're going to try something a bit experimental with John Cage's 433. I hope you like it," or something like that. I think it kind of ruins a bit of the anticipation. Just play it off as normal and see what happens. But knowing what it is and going to see a band knowing they're going to sit for 4 minutes in silence does not sound interesting to me. It is, for lack of better word, a gimmicky song. It has a gimmick to it. Once you know the gimmick, it's not interesting anymore. Again, I still think it has interesting elements to it from an academic angle. But as far as a pure listener, the casual experience, I just don't understand why it continues to get played. And so I want to turn this around to y'all. What are your thoughts on 433? Do you think it's music to begin with? Do you think it's interesting? Do you find something provocative about it that I don't? I'm really interested in listening to everyone else's opinions about this. I think I know what the general consensus is going to be, but one, I'd like to be surprised if it's not, but two, I'd really like to see some of the people who have a different opinion than mine. I've heard I've heard opinions about this. This has been a conversation I've been a part of quite a few times, but there's always new perspectives on it. And I think that we have a really open minded, thoughtful community here that could open my eyes and have a brand new argument for or against it that I've never heard before. A lot of unique experiences and perspectives in this community. So, those are my thoughts on John Cage's 433. And my thoughts on this theme in general. Those are my theme thoughts if I'm going to stick with the thumbnail title. Um, let me know yours. In the description box, of course, there's links for Linktree. Takes you here. You can find my music and stuff like that. I mean, you guys know the drill. If you're listening to my theme thoughts, you're not here for the first time. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. All right, I'll be back later on today with our album review. We're checking out Ruben, which we've heard before. We're going to be looking at their final album. And then tomorrow, of course, we have the live stream at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.